volunteer at the events. Yeah, let me just pause. Any other comments on top of that? Okay. So the next item here is educating youth on environmental topics through a poster contest, which you can see on the right-hand side. We have a lot of, every year, I think this is one of the interesting sessions we have. Apart from the other meetings, mostly talking about policies or what kind of value we can bring from idea standpoint. But this session is very interestingly refreshing to see different poster ideas from our young citizens in our community. So, and this particular, the poster, what you can see here on the right side, that's a winning poster for 2019. We have made some improvements to the school poster contest at this time to provide teachers with some instructional information and participation. We noticed that it's increased. Going forward, we are looking for the next year, we already started some discussion how we could do in the next one. We are living in an e-world right now. So we are trying to figure out how to submit electronically, what options we can provide for a mail-in. So those are all the discussions we are having right now.
That's great. This is TJ. I just wanted to recognize that Councilmember Garamella has been able to join the call. So I just wanted to have that on the record. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Anyone else got anything else to add from the MISC on the poster contest topic? Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so sustainability awareness, research, and a developmental framework. So we are actually developing materials to educate and engage the community in sustainable practices and envision that as an addition to town's website, providing information, graphics, and links as to how our citizens can participate. We also would like to provide content for the town's existing social media platform as another means to reach out to our citizens on relevant topics. So the members with the MESC, we, based on our own expertise, as well as we have done some research for other cities in North Carolina, as well as other states, just to figure out what different people are doing and what works and what not. And then probably I would say within the last 8 to 10 months, we worked on and off, and we came up with a framework and identified 6 core areas for a sustainability focus for our town. And we do have a document, Excel spreadsheet we have created with a little bit more details. I'm going to stay on a high level right now. The first area is land use. The second topic is transportation. The third one is water efficiency. The fourth area is energy efficiency. The fifth area is waste reduction and material reuse. The last but not least, the quality of life. So our plan is we want to, we already started working more details on these individual topics, and our first effort is we want to share some information on this so that it can go into our website, and also it can go into our newsletter so that we can communicate to the residents here. And also we will work with, we have one topic about sustainability planning, working with our staff members. We want to contribute to that topic as well. Anyone from MESC members got any other thing to add on this particular topic? Okay, next slide, please. Okay, committee goals and initiatives for 2020-2021. The first one, again, as always, we want to do community outreach. So this will continue to be an important role for the committee. We will continue to host information booths in our town-sponsored events and welcome town ideas and suggestions as to new ways they would like us to engage the community. Any other additional comments or feedback on that from MESC member? Okay, so the next one here is tracking waste and recycling data. There have been decisions on the possibility of using some software tools going forward to track the data in a better way. For example, Facility Dude is one of the software a town have engaged in the past. We're trying to figure out from waste standpoint whether there is a module available, how we could use tools like that, so that the tracking, we can set a baseline, a period of time like last 12 months or last 36 months, and then we can just easily track it. And again, the information will be electronically available rather than the current spreadsheet tracking method. So that's something we are planning to track. The second item here on the agenda is the textile recycling data and percentage. We had very good response from our community on this particular recycling thing, what we have offered. Even unfortunately, we have to discontinue this due to COVID-19. So hopefully we want to keep an eye on this. If this type of recycling option available for our members, for our citizens down the road, we would like to reintroduce at some point, if that's possible. And also we know that there is an increase in cost of recycling and importance. We are looking for communicating the importance of recycling to the community. So by participating in booths and so forth. So we want to continue to do that. That's pretty much from me on that. Any other additional things from anyone else? Scott, I don't want to pick you, but you had a lot of great ideas here. If you want to speak here, please.
On the tracking waste and recycling data, well, I think what I'm going to talk about in a moment does kind of tie back into the Utility Dude and other software that could be used by the town of Morrisville, so I can refer to that.
No problem. Okay, we can move to the next slide, please. Okay, so this is a more broader topic, and what we would like to do is we just want to touch base on, I'm going to touch base on some core areas of this sustainability initiative, and then our team members definitely got a lot of different expertise and point of view, so we'll spend some time on this slide. So like I mentioned, our committee for the last 6 to 9 months, I should say, we started looking into the areas where we can identify the core 6 areas, which I talked about: land use, transportation, water, energy, waste reduction, and quality of life, and see how we could dive a little bit more detail to see what are all the different things our town can do. So the first item, we said, okay, we need to have some sustainability goals, but we want to have some guidance from the town council on your thinking, and then related to this topic. Are we going to set up some target goals and then see whether we can reduce certain energy use or water use, whatnot, right? So different cities across the nation, they do things differently. So we want to have some guidance on that. The second topic is sustainability framework. We already created a sustainability framework here on these different areas. We just want to use that framework as an example or guidance when we develop the sustainability planning here for our town here. And let me just touch base real quick on the other points, and then definitely we want to have our members to talk about some of these in detail. Third one is a sustainability plan from similar size town. So while we are bringing up with our own ideas to the table, we also want to see what are all the other sustainability related measures worked in other towns in North Carolina as well as across the nation. Because some are easy to implement, so we want to have some short-term, medium, and long-term goals, so that we want to implement the quick short-term one quickly, and then need to plan for mid and long. So we need some guidance from the council also on that particular area. The town sustainability actions, kind of similar to the goals, we need to have some actionable things. One is policy and strategy, and the other one is more actionable. So we need to have some actionable goals for our town. And then recommendation for the future and education through the social media. So we are pretty much most of our town and work and life and everything is now digitized. So we want to see how we can, starting from our younger generation to elderly, how we could use our digital media to promote sustainability within. So those are all the different initiatives or topics. I just want to open this to other members to join here, starting with Scott, please.
Yeah, thank you, Balaji. So this is Scott Hoover, and so this is where I've been kind of advocating the adoption of an established sustainability program for the town of Morrisville, rather than trying to come up with these sustainability goals or objectives in a vacuum. There are established programs. I think LEAD may be one of the most recognizable brands out there. It stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, but there are many other established programs that are out there. Most of these programs all share similarities in that they have sustainability goals in different categories, much like Balaji laid out on a previous slide. Categories such as energy use, water use, land use, transportation, and then there's also usually some social aspect to sustainability as well. I think the advantage of adopting one of these established frameworks is that you get proven sustainability in a package. These programs such as LEAD or some of the others, the ACEEE or some of the others, they contain the distilled wisdom of experts and stakeholders. A lot of these programs are brands that people know and trust. So they also, as Balaji was talking about comparing or looking at what other towns and cities have done. If you look at some of these programs, you can see that within North Carolina, there are other towns that have used some of these different frameworks as well. Raleigh has been rated through the ACEEE rating system. Chapel Hill has been similarly certified or rated. So it does allow, because it's a standard, it does allow Morrisville to kind of compare and contrast our sustainability and where we stand with other towns using the same platform. Also, like Balaji was mentioning, the use of facility dude. A lot of these kind of programs, which the town may want to be using anyway, can also tie into some of these programs as far as being the tool to track the energy use or the waste going to landfill. There's a couple ways that the town of Morrisville could use some of these programs, like the LEED certification or others. We could either look at the certification scheme and decide, yes, we would like to certify the town of Morrisville to this LEED program, or we could be looking at them to see what kind of sustainability goals they contain and kind of adopting those goals to the town of Morrisville. Yeah, so I've worked with several of these programs. I've worked with the LEED program. I've worked with the Energy Star program, although we want something which looks at more than just energy. And I've seen that these programs work, and so I've always been an advocate for these kind of programs. Back to you, Balaji, or any other MESC members who would like to comment on this approach.
Please, any other MESC member, please introduce your name and then please provide your input here.
Or questions from the council as well.
Yeah.
You recognize Councilmember Rao with a question, please.
It's really more of a comment. And Scott, it's great to see you. And I just want to thank everybody on the committee for the great work that you do. The one thing that I'm looking for, I think this idea of sustainability frameworks, and I love the focus on data, looking at recycling. As we move forward as a town, I'm really, and I've spoken to the mayor about this, I really want to turn to this committee to really provide benchmarks like you've already talked about, Scott, in terms of where we compare with other towns in terms of sustainability and sustainability programs, but also where advice that you can give not only public but to the council of specific investments that we need to make so that we can really be sustainable rather than just a word in a document that we read, but what are the specific things we can do? Just a couple of examples. Years ago, a vendor came in with a program called Pay As You Throw, and it was an innovative program, very different kind of model. Those are the kinds of things I would like to see this committee come to us with an idea saying that, could you look at that? Open data, we had a great presentation yesterday on smart cities. And part of that presentation, our CIO, Rick Ralph, and the team are coming up with ideas on where smart cities and data and analytics would fit in to our sustainability efforts. As we talk about citizen engagement, I would like to see a conversation between this committee and the steering committee that's going to eventually be formed in terms of where, we would be able to bring in that kind of innovation and data and put it in the hands of even Morrisville citizens so that they can create apps and come up with better ideas. I think and I'm just giving you some ideas. So as we move forward, I think that this committee is going to play a critically important role in terms of our brand of living connected, living well, because we're a very innovative town, and I don't think we're leveraging the mind share on this committee enough as we move forward. So I just wanted to lay that out there.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. You broke up there a little at the end.
No, sorry.
Yeah, there's a little breaking up, but I can reply if, or can I be heard?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you
Go
can
ahead,
go
Scott.
ahead to that.
Okay, I wasn't sure because it was breaking up. But yes, Steve, I can reply to just a couple of those points that you made, and then I can pass it on to Donna, who I see also has some comments. Yeah, certainly adopting one of these kind of programmatic approaches kind of ensures that we're not just greenwashing our sustainability. Again, this is the distilled wisdom of experts. So you've got the different categories of sustainability. So you're touching on sustainability in all aspects of performance. And as far as benchmarking, that's always the starting point to all of these programs is benchmarking how you stand currently. And these tools also go a great distance to helping benchmark as well, such as utility dude. Just how much energy are our town buildings using? Just how much water do they consume, and how does that compare with buildings of those building stock types?
Yeah. Thank you.
I believe Donna Willard had a comment.
Sorry, unmuting helped. I just wanted to say very quickly on the broad topic of putting together the sustainability plan, and I have brought it up in previous MESC meetings, because the town of Cary is so incorporated within a lot of the Morrisville boundaries. I think we need to pay very close attention to what their standards are and possibly encourage them to join us in ideas and planning. I don't know. That's not my decision. But I think a lot of people in Morrisville don't even realize that Cary is so much a part of the town.
Yeah, I think if your committee felt that that was important to use them as a resource and as a collaborating partner, especially on the water, because they provide the water, I'd imagine that is a really important partnership. I believe Donna Fender, were you done, Ms. Willard? Okay, I believe Councilmember Fender had a comment.
Yeah, I have a couple of comments and a couple of questions. I appreciate you guys participating today in a joint meeting because environmental issues is one of my primary concerns. So I'm encouraged to see the direction that you guys are going, and I would encourage you to be empowered and keep going in that direction. With regards to coming up with a sustainability plan, I would hope that at the same time that you are coming up with a plan or a roadmap, that, as Balaji said, actually do actions in parallel to coming up with the plan, because we don't want to wait a year or two before we start installing solar panels or planting more trees. I think we need to do both initiatives in parallel. And I think it's a great idea, Donna, to partner with Cary or collaborate with them, because in a lot of ways they are very much ahead of us in this respect. They already have a sustainability manager. They have a strategic energy action plan already formed. They have a solar farm at their water reclamation facility. And so I think we can definitely get ideas from Cary and the other municipalities. Use a lot of I already did a lot of research on this earlier in the year when I was looking at, trying to get the town to move forward with installing solar panels. So a lot of the other cities around us already have sustainability plans. So I would encourage you guys to, don't reinvent the wheel, to definitely look at what they're doing. Okay, so a couple questions I had for Scott with regards to the certifications. With LEED certification, it was my understanding that really LEED certification only comes into play when you are building a new facility, like a hospital or fire station. So are there other applications to LEED other than just when you're building a new facility?
Yes, that's correct. This is Scott Hoover. LEED has several different certification schemes, and one of them they came out with recently, which is called LEED for Cities and Communities. So it's not just on a building level, but it's on a community level. And it's for, it can be for new communities or existing communities. And, these certification schemes, this is a topic that I could expand on, for a good half hour, were this the direction, the town chose to take. There's a lot that goes into these.
And what was the other certification you said? ICEEE? Is that what you said?
Sure. So there's several around. The ACEEE, American Council for an Energy Efficient Economy, they come out with so they rate the top 100 U.S. municipalities, and they basically rank them 1 to 100. But then they also open up the score sheet for other municipalities to use, so we could score ourselves using that the same criteria that the top 100 municipalities used for scoring, to again kind of see where we fall along that sustainability spectrum.
Has your group looked at becoming a Soul Smart designated community?
I've not heard of that. Is that the Sierra Club?
No, it's a nonprofit that's in DC, but it is a certification, and I believe they also provide you resources for installing more solar in your community, whether it's specifically on municipal buildings or how to encourage it with working with your developers, or how do you encourage your residents to install solar. So it's SOL Smart, and Apex is a small Soul Smart program designation. Durham is, and I believe Carborough is as well. So there's local municipalities that are Soul Smart designated.
Mm-hmm. I'm not familiar with the Soul Smart city designation. However, some of these that I've listed, I tend to look at the programs which encompass a broader aspect of sustainability. whereas the Soul Smart City sounds like it addresses energy use in cities. It's leaving out water use, land use, transportation, and some other aspects of materials, waste, recycling.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I would still strongly encourage you guys to look at it. I mean, if they're providing resources and support, I would not dismiss it out of hand.
Sure, there's lots of certification schemes we could look at and investigate.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Fender. Yeah, SoulSmart also helps with your ordinances and make it more easily for people to use the solar capabilities. At this time, I'd like to first recognize that Councilmember Rabati has joined the meeting, so welcome, and that Councilmember Garamella has a comment, please.
I'm sorry, I was talking on mute. Okay. Hey, I got to thank the MORE committee here because they do good stuff. I like statistics. And is there any time that you guys can share what data that you did, like especially on the waste recycle? You know, how is it showing? Because in the past we used to get some slides depicting how the usage is. If anything you guys can share with us, that would be great. And the other point about the sustainability, I like what is on this chart right now, but I would also like to add something in regards to creating awareness to the residents so that they can go solar or other means, because that would be very helpful, because sometimes people are still struggling. They want to do it. They don't know how to go about. So if you guys can guide it through, proper, education to the social media and other stuff, that would be very, very helpful. And after this, both the committees have merged with the stormwater and this one, I'm not seeing a whole lot of stormwater activities that we used to have, regarding the water cleanups, like stream cleanups, and also creating the awareness. One area I could clearly see some, help that you guys can give is to the teens and the college, early college kids, regarding, they are very resourceful. When I was in the stormwater, we did markings to the stormwater all across the town, and I had engaged a lot of teens to help with that, and town was very helpful as part of the process, so that it helped them to have all those markings done. So if you guys can do that, that would be really, really helpful, and those kids can get their voluntary hours. That's all. Thank you.
Excellent. Councilmember Rabati has a comment, and then we'll pass it back to the chair. Councilmember Rabati? Okay, she might be having some connection difficulty as she just came on. So Ann, if you just want to put a new comment in when you're able to speak or just interrupt us, I'll pass it back to Chair Balaji to recognize a couple of NESC members who want to make comments.
Sure. Why not I just want to, why not we have the members talk first, and then I can catch up at the later.
Okay, Jessica Sliger had a comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about marking the stormwater drains. I believe that's what the comment was regarding. We actually had been discussing that right before the pandemic began, and a few of us actually had plans to do that, but we had to put that on pause due to the pandemic. So I just wanted to comment on that.
Yeah, I think, if engaging the kids, like where they can safely go do it instead of having a crowd with their parents or whoever they can, that would help them too.
Yep, exactly.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Councilmember Rabati.
Yay!
Go
Okay.
ahead.
Hi, everybody. I wanted to just apologize for being late, and also to let the committee know that I appreciate their being willing to talk to us tonight. I'll definitely watch the recording, and you can consider me 100% supportive in any efforts that you undertake.
Excellent.
That's all I had.
Here, Scott, you want to circle back?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Colley. I just wanted to respond to your comment about the Soul Smart Cities helping with the ordinances. There's another resource that the ACEEE puts out. It's called a series of mayor toolkits, and it's a toolkit of 7 strategies that mayors can implement to improve the energy efficiency in their cities. So there's other, another source for those kind of helps with ordinances.
Okay, I would happy to be a pass-through to organizations like that. And any council members, I'm sure, would be also interested in taking different parts, like TJCOG, Triangle J Council of Governments, has a number of different things. I believe Satish is our delegate to that right now, so that might be a way in. Also, Clean Water Education Partnership is through COG as well, and those are things that are open to the public. So if any of your members want to start to attend any of those virtually or whatever, that might be a win-win. I could just share a couple of my comments at this time as well. I think one of the goals, I think that kind of high level, is just generally carbon reduction, moving closer to renewable energy as much as possible. I don't know if you guys would think of tree preservation or tree replanting as within your scope. Steve Dickinson was planning on doing something like that, got overtaken by COVID. If you might be, as a group, interested in taking lead on adopt a roadway, adopt a park, adopt a greenway, adopt a stream. Adopt a stream has been within your thing. I'm not sure if we want to try to expand those. There's Keep America Beautiful, which is a structured thing, and they bring it down to the town levels as well. Another interesting thing that we ran into recently is a bee city, like honeybees, BEE. That's a designation that might help in the environment. I like the idea of LEED or other kinds of benchmarking opportunities. I think that we will probably be more of a la carte kind of town. But if there's something that you guys feel really encompasses everything that we're looking for, I think the council would love to hear about it. And I think we're hungry to support initiatives that are really going to make a difference. And I want you all to feel empowered to do that and to bring things forward. As Councilmember Fender mentioned, I'd love this to be more of a learn as we go, like a design build type situation, so we don't need to wait until we have a full-fledged plan in order to make some of these things happen. I think that will help build awareness, get more engagement as we go. So my main message is, please feel empowered to bring recommendations forward, even if they have budgetary impacts, and then we can see if the resources are there. At this point, I'm looking for other comments. Councilmember Rabati mentioned that she has a contact for the bees, and Chair Balaji earlier mentioned that he's willing to share the data about the waste and recycling. Councilmember Garmel, be careful what you wish for, because there is a lot of data. I've been to some of those meetings. So I'll pass it back. Councilmember Fender has a comment. Yeah, please do.
I just wanted to remind the committee that in our 2021 budget, we do have a line item in there for $100,000 in sustainability initiatives, and also a new position for a sustainability program coordinator. So we're starting to get the infrastructure in place to support sustainability initiatives. So there is funding set aside for any worthwhile initiatives that you guys come up with.
Councilmember Rabati?
Yeah, this is kind of a pet project, but I just wanted to direct your attention to Carrie's tree archives program. They are working on establishing a tree archive. I want to say they have about 6 acres, and they're planting indigenous trees that get cut down, all over. And I would love to have something like that in Morrisville. So I just wanted to, I do also have a contact for that, so you can feel free to reach out to me, and I'll put you in touch.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Rabati. So I'd like to go ahead and recognize Chair Balaji now. I think Carson Bauman might have his hand raised. He might not know that we're actually using the chat box to indicate our desire to speak. So I'll pass it back to you, Chair.
Yeah, welcome, Mr. Bowman. So I just want to pass it on to him so that he'll have an opportunity to speak here.
Thank you, Balaji, and sorry that I'm late. I thought it started at 6:30, and then I had trouble connecting. So I'm a research professor at UNC Chapel Hill. I'm currently busy with PFAS in water and air, and also involved in some COVID studies, viability of the SARS-CoV-2. And I guess I've been in that committee for quite some time. And we used to have these monthly slides of the recycling numbers, and I guess we can resume those. It sounds like the town council members like those. But in terms of the name of our committee, I really would like, and I think it is ripe now. Currently, the S stands for stormwater. I would love to see that S stand for sustainability. That was my proposal a long time ago. And if the town council wants us to be engaged in the subject matter of sustainability, and we have the expertise, I guess, among our members to service this task and fulfill it, we should actually rewrite our charter and emphasize it on the aspect of sustainability, as it is more readily reflecting what we are expected to do. So, and with that, I wanted to comment what our esteemed mayor mentioned just a minute ago, with some concrete plans and to feel empowered to make suggestions. I can only point to Apex, who had a program to give private homeowners credits for the idea and the goal to install solar panels on their roofs. And that would be a real plus to provide those incentives among Morrisville residents. And I think I have panels on my house, and I keep 2 or 3 private homeowners in the neighborhood came by and asked me about them. I think if there was an active promotional campaign started by the town of Morrisville, and maybe with support and consultation of the person that is going to fill that position that Donna just mentioned, where I guess the $100,000 are going to be spent, we could probably think more concretely about such an activity, such a campaign. Thanks.
You bet. Thanks for joining us. And I believe SoulSmart kind of does things like that. And if you guys were to create some kind of model for incentivizing, the fact that Apex has already done it means that there's probably legislative authority. That's our biggest limit. So I think that would be a very interesting thing that I think we would all be curious to see how that would work and what the budgetary impacts would be in order to enable that. About the name change, as one of our 6 minimum measures for our phase 2 permit for NPDDS, we do have to do some outreach, and I don't know if we have to keep stormwater in the name of the committee or not. but it could be MESSC or something if you want to add sustainability in there. That could be a recommendation coming out of your committee to do both. But yeah, keep those ideas coming. That's what this is for. This is the brainstorming time that you guys can bring things back and then decide as a committee what to make recommendations forward. We're not going to decide anything tonight, obviously. One thing to keep in mind is that we do have a sustainability coordinator coming on board. Rick Ralph is the overall umbrella leader for all of our smart city, and some of this will be contained within that because a lot of this is going to be data driven. So I think it's going to be important for you guys for you as a group to each read the smart city report that he just presented to us last night. I think that would be very helpful. There's areas in there about energy and sustainability to make sure that we are not duplicating efforts or going out in different directions. We want this to be as efficient as possible. And we can move quickly without hurrying. We just need to be deliberate and make sure that there's lots of communication. And when the new sustainability person comes on, that doesn't mean we have to wait to do everything, but you guys have already, you as a group, I keep saying guys, which I apologize for, have already done a lot of work, a lot of the benchmarking, a lot of the investigation of local towns and what other people are doing, and made it Morrisville specific. And that's, I think, one of your roles that will be really important in the beginning is meeting with this new sustainability manager and bringing them up to speed on what you have learned. And then they have a head start. They can hit the ground running, and they'll already have some subject matter expertise. They might already like LEED or AC, Triple E, and you guys can all work together and be as efficient as possible.
Do you anticipate a starting date for that manager?
I would pass a question like that to our staff, because I do not know the answer to that.
Mayor, was that in regards to the sustainability coordinator?
Yes, please.
So that
That's
position.
Brandon Zudemer, our assistant town manager.
Yes, good afternoon, and I spoke with most of the members of MESC at their last meeting. So that position is currently advertised. It has an initial review of applications on August 24th. I can tell you that we already have, I believe, over 60 applications in the short time it's been posted, which is hopefully a good sign. So I would anticipate that the initial review will be towards the end of August, and then a hiring process and assessment in the few weeks that follow. So by this fall, we would optimistically have someone selected for the position. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
That is, and that
That's pretty cool.
And Ms. Page, our town manager, has mentioned in the chat, which some people have access to, but the audience does not, is that the sustainability coordinator will be housed in our public works department and work under Giselle, who is our public works director. And she and Rick, our IT director, will be collaborating on the many sustainability initiatives as part of the Smart Cities assessment. So the org chart of sustainability, that'll be more clear, and you guys will all see how the authority will roll and how you can make your recommendations and bubble them up and use staff as a resource, and they will use you as a resource as well. So it will be a collaborative effort. But like I said, don't have to wait for our sustainability coordinator to be on board to keep this good work going. Looking to see if there's, did you have any more slides or anything, Chair Balaji?
No, I got to cover one last topic, not just previous slide. Can you go back to the previous slide, please?
This one.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Just want to touch base on two things real quick. I think our MESS members pretty much answered all the questions, so made an easy job for me here. But I agree with what Scott mentioned about the LEED cities and communities. There are a lot of work put together by different cities and sustainability experts on that particular rating system. So we could just use the lot of various good information in the rating system on the different categories what we have identified as the best practices to begin with, and then based on the budget and the policy, the town could decide whether you want to go with the rating system or not. But we should start using all the best practices already laid out. It's available. It's free. You can view that and you can use it. So I would support as well on that, and also I would support what Dr. Carson mentioned about we are already doing sustainability. So definitely it's part of our charter. So I agree with that. So with that, just want to touch the last point here, the youth sustainability awareness. The poster contest eventually will be slightly digitized going forward. So we will talk about that in our next meeting to figure out how we could allow our young environmentalist or sustainability supporter just to provide their point of view and ideas through their poster contest electronically, and also we want to provide option to mail it if they couldn't submit electronic. So we will do that, and also probably we'll figure out how we can communicate to the schools in the area, so that I think most of the schools are in the electronic learning. So we want to communicate to them so that they can encourage the students to participate on that part as well. That's pretty much on our MESC update. The next slide is basically to the town staff to provide their update.
Okay, would someone on town staff like to run us through this slide?
I'll be glad to go through the slide. This is Giselle, a Public Works Director. We also have on staff Steve Dickinson. He is our liaison, current liaison to the MESC committee. Some of the initiatives that the town has pretty much carried out in the area of sustainability, we are currently in the process of replacing the charging stations currently at the PSMS building, and we are also in the process of installing 2 new charging stations at the the aquatic and fitness center. So those should be coming. We are in the process of securing a vendor, so I would say that those will be coming towards the spring. But we are currently in the process of doing that. We've had 2 charging stations for a little while right now at PSMS, and being able to expand this infrastructure will position us in a great position to actually start using electric vehicles in our fleet right now. We are also in the process as part of the Smart Cities initiative that Rick mentioned last night. We will be identifying some other areas where we could deploy this charging station to make it more efficient, and also being able for us to expand our fleet. There are also initiatives that we would like to continue to enhance on the recycling program. That is one area that the MESC committee has actually assisted the staff with by promoting those programs, whether it is a Green Day, Spring Fest, Farmers Market event, and just putting the information out there so that people is aware of what the requirements are for the recycling program. Currently, Morrisville has a pretty good participation rate as compared to the other municipalities around us, based on the recent plan that was developed by Wake County. Unfortunately, we were not able to do the Green Day in the spring, but Green Day is one of those initiatives that the committee works in conjunction with the staff to be able to promote the recycling, the shredding of paper, and just being able to do that, the stream cleanup as well in conjunction with stormwater. So that it's one avenue that was used for stream cleanups that this year has been a little more complex with the fact that we had to cancel the Green Day. As mentioned last night by Rick, we are currently exploring the opportunities for having a solar conversion to at least one town building. So that's currently already in the works. Now, a lot of these initiatives that we are talking about will continue to be expanded by the sustainability coordinator. In addition to the update that Brandon and Martha provided, this position will start up the sustainability master plan for the town, and that's going to be a key part of this whole development process, just to make sure that we are going in the right direction. So this position will be working in conjunction with all of the departments in town. Also, we will be working as a liaison to this committee, and we'll be also have the connection to the community in bringing other organizations that have expertise available for us to tap into. So just because the sustainability coordinator is not here yet doesn't mean that we haven't started this initiative. Like I mentioned, a lot of this work has already began between Rick and I, just trying to get some things moving. So that's, I would say, in a nutshell, a good aspect of town initiatives. One other thing I do want to highlight, we have a few projects that are currently in the work for new development. That includes expansion on our parks projects. That includes new fire station, new public works complex. And we have already approached the designers that we want them to be looking at sustainability initiatives to incorporate within the design components, so that we are doing this from the beginning rather than retrofitting. So that is something that we are currently doing with the projects that are going on. And I think that's it for the most part on the sustainability initiative from staff.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that update. Staff has been working hard, and I'd like to do a little shout out to Steve Dickinson, who is also doing a lot of great work and being the liaison. It's always helpful to receive the notes and the minutes from the meetings. We enjoy being kept up to date through that. One thing I did forget to mention earlier is the idea of trying to go fully 100% renewable energy by some certain date as part of this process, 2050, maybe interim milestones. That's always a good goal that is recognized by residents across the country when a town makes that kind of commitment and builds more awareness. So that would be up to this committee to determine what would be appropriate and what could be reasonably attained. But as Ms. Rodriguez Villanueva said, we don't need to wait until we have the sustainability coordinator in place. She's available, Steve's available, and Rick, to try to keep these going as we go. Did anyone else have any other comments before we give our heartfelt thanks to this committee? And I think this went really well, and I'd love to plan on doing this once a year. So there's the next slide. What are the town's priorities for sustainability? I'd like to recognize Mayor Pro Tem Johnson with a comment at this time.
Thank you. I wanted to first thank the committee members for being here tonight and being a part of this joint meeting. I won't repeat what's already been said because so many great comments have been mentioned here tonight, but I wanted to add my support as you are working on this sustainability plan, and you started by asking for our guidance. And I would tell you, you're on the right track. Continue the good work that you're doing. We appreciate the work you're doing, and I will tell you, I'm really proud of this committee. I've been able to watch this committee grow over the years, and of course merge with our stormwater, our rain committee, and you all are doing fantastic work, and Giselle and her team are doing fantastic work too. So keep it up. The one thing that I would want to emphasize is that I love the work you do with the youth in our community, and Councilmember Garamella mentioned that too about the programs, besides the poster contest, the other programs you do with our youth. I appreciate you including them because we all know that our youth are the gateway to the adults. They're the gateway to the parents and to making change happen. So keep up those efforts too, and I would encourage you to keep emphasizing the engagement and the activities you have for them. So that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Great points. I'll pass it back to Chair Balaji, please.
Yeah, one just quick comment. I forgot to mention this, but this one goes without saying. Special thanks to Mr. Dickinson for his all the timely support. We all send multiple emails. We get prompt response. Thanks a lot. We really appreciate it. Sometimes we don't mention that in our regular meetings, but I just want to recognize that here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very happy with our staff doing great work, especially all the citizen engagement. Okay. Well, on behalf of the council and all the residents, we'd like to thank the MES committee for all the work that they're doing and the staff who support them. And we look forward to hearing more from you all over the next weeks and months. Keep us apprised on any recommendations, budgetary or otherwise, however we can support you. We know that we can send to you any emails or anything that we get about these issues, and you guys will, we can send them to Steve and he can forward them on to you guys. So if there's anything you need from us, just let us know, towncouncil@townofmorrisville.org. And thank you very much for this evening. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
So that was a very good interaction. We're an hour and 15 in. I think we can keep going and maybe take a break after the next one if that's okay with everybody. Right now we're going to go into our second of 3 work session items, CIP Policy Development of Greenways. At this time I'd like to recognize Jeannie Hooks, Assistant to the Town Manager, to facilitate our discussion.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. It's good to talk with you all again about our next item for discussing and developing policy placeholders, policy development for the CIP placeholders. Let me move through and get to our presentation. Oops, went too fast. So as I mentioned, our next item for really getting your collective input. Remember, we've already gone through a process of getting your individual input on CIP placeholders, and we've already gone through 2 of them, which is your top 2 priorities were land acquisition and town center. So we've already got those in the works, in the pipeline, and we applied a similar process to get your collective input so that we can work on refining and developing doing that next step of developing the policy. So the next item on that collective input discussion is greenways. So just a quick reminder on some background of CIP policy development and these placeholders. I'm not going to go over everything that's bulleted here, but just want to say that the placeholders that were put in the CIP, why we're having this discussion, just a reminder, is that we need to define what these buckets of items are. When council put them in, I think with fiscal year 2020 it was an important task for you to take on, to go back and put meaning to what these buckets were so that staff can now know what your policy interest is and now work on developing project concepts that you can prioritize and fit within the scope of your 5-year CIP plan. So that's just a little reminder of how we got here and why it's important to have these conversations. So as we mentioned, there are 5. The first 2 we've already tackled in doing individual input. We've done your collective input, and now staff has that information, and we're we're armed and ready to do research and prepare the policy drafts, and we'll be bringing those back. I believe the first round is in September now. And now we're at that collective input stage again with the third one that was prioritized, and that's greenways. And then we'll work towards timing for the more longer term items, which is transit-oriented development and affordable housing. All right. So this is going to be a facilitated discussion. I'm going to try to help you through that. I'm going to use really the exact same framework of discussion, so hopefully it'll be familiar to you, and you'll know how to process through that, but I will guide you. I would ask you to use your chat box to indicate if you have a question, comment, or want to provide input or clarification, just as you have been doing through these virtual meetings. And we're going to talk about really these core policy elements. These tend to be common policy elements that you find in most policies, and I've tried to help you with prompting questions to help you get to giving us input that helps us develop and define what each one of these core elements are. So let's get going. Is everybody good and ready to go? Silence means everything, right? All right, just a few reminders.
We're ready, Jeannie.
We're ready. I like that. I like that. Just a reminder, there are some things that as you're thinking through these elements and you know really what your purpose is and so forth, there's some things you might need to remember to consider. You know, your strategic goals and initiatives, that's very important. Land inventory diminishing, values are escalating, and just be mindful of things that are out there, like even other adopted plans in this case might come into play and be an important conversation. So there are influential factors. Just keep those in the back of your mind as you're thinking through and giving us input, collective input. So the first core element, and I'll pause with each one of them and look to the chat box and engage after each one of these elements so that we get your input and you have opportunity to discuss, is really what is the purpose of Greenway placeholder, or what is the purpose of developing a policy for council around greenways? Now, remember, we did a paired comparison, individual input, and the information that I've gleaned from that individual input is what I have helped you with by putting some words, bulleted words underneath this each core element to prompt you for conversation. These are your words as individuals and your feedback that we synthesized and pulled together. You may, at this time, decide really what do you want to add, what do you want to take away, what do you need to get more clarification on as an entity and agree upon, or what's really missing. So I'll go through a few of these that you thought were important and that we heard some commonality even in your individual interest. One of them in particular, first and foremost, was your healthy, connected community. Really resonated with many of you. The other was to find alternative solution. That directly relates to some your strategic goals and initiatives. We've often had conversations about producing a healthy greenway network, even a sidewalk network that plays into that, and filling those gaps, identifying and filling those gaps, and approaching it through prioritization. What comes first? Because you do have limited funding, you have to consider that. What I also heard resounding from all of you was to improve the safety, the emergency response and signage, the accessibility of this type of amenity to our community, this quality of life amenity. And then the suggestion of really connecting citizens, new incorporated businesses, and nature. So I'll pause there. Mayor, you are the first that has a comment.
Thank you. As we talk about connecting, I like the idea of the overall concept, all roads lead to Rome. So we want every greenway or every resident to have a way to get to every other resident on sidewalks or greenways. So essentially, if you can get to town hall on a sidewalk or a greenway, then you can get all over town. So just to dig into the fact that we want everyone connected. So if there's a sidewalk gap here, they should be able to get a different way, at least for now, but eventually to get all the sidewalk gaps. Another thing that when we were first discussing this, we didn't really know where the nodes for our smart shuttle stops would be. I think a purpose would be at this point to try to connect as many of those as well, if possible, wherever viable. So I would elevate things on our priority list that connect those smart shuttle stops.
Okay.
Thank you.
I believe Councilmember Fender, you're next.
Yeah, I just have a question. How does the emergency response tie into the greenways?
So I think in the conversations or the input that I received, that you want to have greenways that are accessible, that are patrolled, that are in some ways, there were suggestions of well lit. And I think I might pause here and see if Town Manager Page had something else to add to that particular conversation. We've had that at staff level and at council level before.
Yes, and we didn't go into this in depth during our budget discussion, but our fire department requested an all-terrain vehicle, which has been approved, and it's one of those deferred items. But on some of our greenways currently, if somebody would get injured well into those greenways, it would be very difficult for some of our vehicles to make good connection to help somebody or rescue somebody without undue time. So it's something as simple as that, making it wide enough for an all-terrain vehicle, making it accessible so that people feel safe and we have access to them. So that's some of those things. And then signage and ways for people to identify where they would be is just part of the associated infrastructure once a greenway is there.
Did that help explain? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, you are next.
So Jeannie, wordsmithing is always very dangerous place to go to. So I don't really want to do that, and I typically don't. But and I know you allude to this in the wording that's here, but I'd love to see somewhere, and it doesn't have to be clearly in part of these bullets, but somewhere in the policy that our greenways are an alternative mode of transportation too. I think alternative mode of transportation is important somehow to include this somewhere. And again, I know you know, non-automotive solutions to reduce cars on the road, connecting citizens and businesses, you know, that's all a part of it. But I like those words.
Okay, I think in some of your feedback, it sort of balanced between non-automotive solutions, alternative modes of transportation. So I could probably work with that. Thank you. Councilmember Scroggins Johnson, you have a comment on emergency response?
Yeah, the greenways are in places where we can't build roads, and sometimes what we have asked for is for the greenway to be built in a way that can sustain a fire truck or an emergency vehicle. And that is an agreement with, you know, the community that's nearby, or an agreement with our transportation plan if we can't build a road there. it helps not only if there's an emergency on the greenway itself, but if there's an emergency in the area in which the incident happens, we can actually use the greenway for emergency vehicles to get to the scene in a way that would provide the best assistance. So there was consideration during the time that I've served for robust greenway in the area of Parkside. Some of the greenways were being discussed. Should we have an emergency access only greenway near there so that we could get emergency vehicles back there? Also behind Savannah, there was some discussion about making some of that greenway more robust so that there could be heavier vehicles that could get back in that area that no road is currently, so that we could have that. So sometimes we do use the greenways in more innovative ways so that we can still move about and keep everyone safe.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Rao, you commented great points. Did you want to add anything?
No, I mean, I think that everyone has been so articulate tonight in terms of just conveying really, really good points that the words were pretty much what I was going to say. I think that I've been spending more time in the greenways since the pandemic, running and walking, and I just have been just so amazed with how beautiful they are, so peaceful, particularly the one near Church Street Park. And I just think it's a great way for the community to walk, as the mayor said, connect to different residents, and just provide health and well-being, walking, running, biking, and I just think that greenway, and then I noticed a lot of people spending time in the Morrisville, near the Morrisville Park, that greenway. So I think the connectivity is so important for the quality of life. And as I'm out there talking to the community, I see so many people very, very appreciative of the greenways. So I think, it's something that we need to continue to invest in. And that's the only thing I have to add in addition to what's been mentioned.
Okay, so purpose is something, it's that lofty goals, it's things that you're interested in accomplishing, is those big pictures. So I think we've got some input to work with. I see no other comments. So I'll move you to the next element.
Well, I just want to add one last point. I think as we look at development, we've done it in the past, but I really think it's a partnership. And so I want to see more developers partner with us to invest more in our greenways. I mean, and I think that, we're already doing it, but I want to see more of that.
Okay. Is that a goal, a feeling for a goal for you, or is that a mechanism to accomplish your goals? So I think I have placed it in how to execute. So just think about that, and as I get to that particular slide, if you feel it fits better in one place or another, just let me know, and you certainly will have another opportunity to look at this when I draft an actual policy based on your input. It'll be another round for council to sort of touch in on what do you collectively agree to, what are those common elements.
Okay, I'll do that.
But good point. Greenway priorities, what are your short-term and long-term objectives? Priorities, just some hints here. They can be specific or really general in nature, and general meaning to allow for flexibility and as future influences or opportunities arise. A good policy has some shades of gray in it on purpose, because you want the interpretation to be able to flex and bend and be somewhat organic as your community grows and really your demographics change, and therefore your interests could change, and it might open up other windows of opportunities. So what I heard from you through your individual input in terms of short-term, long-term objectives is that it was important as a task to do is prioritize the greenways and multi-use path segments that your transportation plan identified. So here's where an adopted plan has influence. And with that might come development of criteria in order for that to occur. Another one was define desired types of greenways or other support amenities. So oftentimes we see greenways where there could be fitness stations along the route. There could be even educational venues or opportunities for learning about Morrisville's history, for example. So those are some of the things that maybe we've heard in the past or I've heard through your individual input. Very strong interest in eliminating the connectivity gaps, and where you were headed here was touching on what the mayor was indicating earlier, is connecting all of our neighborhoods, business, and communities through sidewalks, greenways, and alternative modes of transportation. And then and more importantly is really connecting to our regional partners. That would be those entities that are around us that have greenways. We want to be able to extend to those greenways as well and network and connect across and beyond Morrisville. You also indicated that short and long term you need to have these support features that help influence folks to utilize these greenways by having trailheads, effective public parking, and that really encourage that park, ride, walk, and alternative modes of transportation. And with that, in order to accomplish those short-term objectives, I heard you acknowledge that you had to acquire future right-of-way for future easements, that was something that was important. And this is where you might have that nexus to your top prioritized placeholder, which is land acquisition, where land acquisition policy is going to influence many of these other placeholders and how we accomplish them. So I will pause there and look for Councilmember Rabati. I think we're first for your comments for this section. Thank you.
So I think that it would be nice if the greenways, in addition to being activity centers, which they are now, people bike and they walk and they run, I think it would be great if we paid more attention to rest and reflection areas also, like benches or like there are along the towpath through Cary and Durham. And so I think that it would be nice if there were benches and the trails in our greenways lend themselves to those kind of spots anyway. Like the places where we could put them are already there, but I think it would be nice if there were, places you could fill a water bottle, places where you could sit down, places where, like somebody said, you could stop and learn something. But I think that would also be desirable.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Garamella. And then we have Mayor.
Okay, my comments are like, when will we get these prioritization for the greenways and the sidewalks? It's been almost like 4 years. I saw the first time we had really prioritized the sidewalks, and we talked about the same for the greenway, right? So is there a timeline? Because we have been putting on money on our budget from several years, but never really gone through that process of selecting them and finishing them.
So I can help provide that, and we tried to provide a more current update in the last news and notes that we had been waiting for some of those funds to reconcile and retain what was in our sidewalk capital project fund to use to initiate design and survey for prioritized sidewalk projects. So that finally occurred in last fiscal year, and Mark Spanioli has been leading the effort to get some sidewalk design and survey so that we can accurately assess the cost and the timing for those individual projects. He has focused on the projects that are not in some way tied to NCDOT, since we get money for those. And Brandon is working with Mark to sort of sketch out the timing, not only of when those sidewalk projects could occur, but bringing back a more comprehensive update to Town Council on that item. The sidewalk prioritization, just at the time, as Councilmember Garamel mentioned, it's older. It did not include any greenways, and so we will have to figure out prioritization or discussion or incorporation of greenways or multi-use paths into some of our sidewalk work as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think what we did was a long time ago, and it would be good, and also include citizen input into it, because there might be only 10, orphan sidewalks or the greenway that we are talking about. There could be 20 that the citizens could also say. So once they give all their input, we can have our criteria. I think last time I really liked the way it was done. So that would help us to see, so that once we do the prioritization, you're ready to go.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, you have a comment?
Yeah, I would just echo what Councilmember Garamella was just mentioning, that it's been a while since we actually got the sidewalks going. Looking forward to that. I was remembering the Millicent Greenway. That's something we haven't heard about recently, but that was something that was a good discussion a year and a half ago. Also, to piggyback on Councilmember Rabati, she mentioned benches. I was going to mention that as well. I think there might be spaces also for picnic tables. It might be going back to purpose, that our greenways can also be a gathering space. They don't just connect our parks, they can be almost mini parks in and of themselves if there's a little space by the path where you can have a family picnic or something like that. So those are what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Thank you, Jeannie. I know on the next slide you have a bullet that talks about criteria to prioritize, but here on this slide, are you looking for input on which of these are short-term or long-term, or are these all just a big bucket of everything kind of mixed together? Does that make sense?
Based on your individual input, they were really became a bucket of things that were semi-common amongst the input that we synthesized from council's individual paired comparison. It is something that we would likely need to, in a policy, get to at some stage to define or delineate between short-term interest and your long-term interest. At this stage, I would say if you're not comfortable doing that, we can certainly get you there with the policy conversation. I think at this point it's more important, what are those buzzwords that we need to think about, that you need to see in a section here? How do you feel about the priorities? What has to happen? Is that helpful?
That is helpful, but I agree. We've got to get to a point where we do prioritize all of these items, because we can't do it all up front, and there are some windows of opportunity that we need to take advantage of. So yeah, whether that's tonight or you're teeing us up for the next go round, I think we need to think really long and hard about that. Because I will tell you, so when we talk about other support amenities, I love that idea, but I would like to get Greenway on the ground first, and then maybe add support amenities, unless there's some kind of financial gain to do them up front.
Okay.
So that would kind of be my input right now. And to Councilmember Rabati's comments about benches, I do agree with that, and those are some of those support amenities. I get that. Our greenways are gorgeous. They are. There are some beautiful spots along the greenway where I could see those benches placed where people could really sit and enjoy just life passing by. I mean, sometimes that's a lot of fun to see your neighbors passing by. And I can't tell you how many times I've run into people and had some real long conversations on a greenway, and I wish we had a bench back in the old days where we could sit and continue those conversations. So just a couple of thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. I know I've been on the Crabtree Hatcher Creek Greenway on that long boardwalk, and at some point I was ready to sit down. It's beautiful back there, but you get on that boardwalk and you have to keep going.
That's one of the places I'm thinking of. You're right. I walk that a lot.
And my dog's looking for the water fountain. All right. So I think we have everybody for that one. So let's move to the next one. Did you have a comment? Okay. All right. So greenways, what is the framework to execute for? So there's always a process to everything. There's things you have to consider. You know, what mechanisms do you feel you prefer to use? But don't limit yourself. It doesn't need to be all-encompassing. It needs to be maybe probably focusing on the big items. You could refer in this section to really resource partners. I think you have all, but in your input, have indicated that with partnering with your developers, leveraging an alignment to NCDOT and Wake County's participation in their plans, and remember, as a whole, policy development gets something in place, and you can always mature it. So that sort of goes back to a comment I heard just a minute ago. If you put something in place and at least gets you going and gives us some guidance as staff to work with, we can always mature it as we go and revisit and update policy. So just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. So some of the things we heard were in order to execute a framework that we needed to consider is we do need to establish a criteria to prioritize greenway segments that have been outlined by a transportation plan. We need to also look at developing timelines and funding plans or funding strategies. You indicated the importance of leveraging and aligning with other project entities. In this case, specifically, you said NCDOT and Wake County's participation. And then, of course, it's important that you align these projects really with the prioritization of your CIP as a whole. Your funding resources can be somewhat limited, although you may have more alternatives for funding with greenways and as well as parks. You do need to understand that you have competing resources, you have competing demands, and your CIP has other categories of projects that have to be balanced and prioritized as a whole. And then, of course, you did indicate a strong point here in your individual input. Having that UDO flexibility to partner with developers is a phrase that I heard through your input. So I'll pause there and see who is first to offer comments. What's missing? What would you add? What would you take away? Or do you need clarification on something? Or are we good? Mayor, I believe you were first for comment, and then we have Councilmember Rabati has a question.
I think I did beat her by a fraction of a second.
I think so too.
I guess framework to execute. I guess I would like to, somewhere in the policy, have the idea that if a development is going to hinder the use of a greenway for a certain period of time, that we have some kind of workaround planned in advance. The Thornbury subdivision comes to mind, the lack of connection for the Morrisville Carpenter Road connection to the Hatcher Creek up to Town Hall Drive. So I'd just like the policy to have some way to address that we don't want to lose greenway once we have it in place. I'm not sure where that would fit, but that would be something that I'd like our policy to be able to address in a proactive way rather than trying to react after the fact.
Okay, I'm not sure, it might not fit here exactly, but I understand what your interest is. That it's an important interest that become a consideration in these conversations as site plans might come in and developers might impede an existing connection, that we need to make sure that connection still exists and isn't shut down for extended periods of time.
Yeah, and in the case of the Indian Creek stormwater, that's an example where it was on us doing that. But fortunately, we have the sidewalk on Town Hall Drive, so people can still use it.
They might not always be an absolute, but it is something that we can indicate your strong interest in. Okay, Councilmember Rabati, you had a question.
Well, I did have a question on what UDO flexibility to partner with developers means, but before that, just to follow along the mayor's comment, why can't we just make that an absolute, that we won't permit development that's going to screw up the greenways? Like, why can't that just be a thing that we don't allow? In fact, why would we, in fact, allow it?
I think in response to that is you would probably have to take it case by case. What are the circumstances around a development coming in and how it might impede? What do you get as a result? So, what are the benefits gained from the project? How long? What's the duration? Could they offer a workaround? Those are just some things that might come to mind. It doesn't mean that I have the answer or solution to that, but those are things you might consider. You had a question, I think, on the UDO flexibility to partner with developers. I think the intent.
Yeah, I literally just don't understand what that phrase means.
I think the intent here is to have conditional ability to be able to have developers that come in or either offer some incentives that might come into play. Again, that would be maybe defining or modifying something in the existing UDO to be able to pave the way for those opportunities to present themselves without them being hurdles, so that developers come in and want to be willing to do that.
I'm sorry, Jeannie. I think you're going to have to break that down a little further for me. Can you give me an example of what type of thing you're talking about?
I could probably give
Okay,
you
go ahead.
I could probably give an example.
That'd be great.
Our current UDO in some places.
Wait, Martha, I can't hear you very well. Is your mic on?
It is.
Here.
Okay.
Oh, you got it. Thank you.
Is this one better?
So much better.
Okay, great. Thank you. Our UDO requires developers to do, I'll call it in a simple framework, their pro rata share. So let's use a sidewalk as an example. They're required to put the sidewalk on their frontage. And that's how we end up with gaps, is because there could be some land in between the next development that is only required to build the sidewalk in front of their frontage. So flexibility and partnering would be the potential discussion or ability to indicate desire or preference for those sidewalks to connect, as just a very simple example of how that could be. We've also worked with people to put greenways or expand our greenway network through some of their neighborhoods, but those things start and stop. So, and then there's the relative discussion as well as, and we've had this before, whether they do it as a part of the development or we have to come back and undo it, and the cost and PIL and those types of things. So just more flexibility to address those kinds of issues.
Yeah, I think I was going for dedication of land for the area that a greenway might fall in. and partnering with them to get the greenway segment accomplished versus waiting for later when it costs more. That was probably where my mind was at. And then another example were connections that might occur where a greenway is really right there at the development, and it takes maybe 300 feet of additional greenway to make that connection, and it'd be a requirement maybe of the site plan approval, was another thought, because I think we've had an example where that occurred. And Morrisville had to go back and make the connection, the small connection.
Councilmember Garamella.
Councilmember Garamella, I believe you're next, and then we have Councilmember Fender.
Yeah, I kind of like what Ann was talking about, especially any closures of any of our public right-of-way access, like the Greenway, or even, we have to have a very strict framework around how we operate with them, because and what's the penalty of closing it? I would put it that way, because we can give certainly the flexibility with the partners who want to help us, but if it is causing hindrance and causing people grief or not using our greenways, that should be equally put into place with proper, guidelines, because they could slip from their projects, and that's not good, because our whole idea is to connect the greenways from neighborhood to neighborhood. So that's just the intent was not thought of that way, but I think going future, we got to keep these things in mind. That's all.
Okay. Councilmember Fender.
I had a question about the UDO flexibility as well. Are you thinking that there are items in our current UDO that need to be modified to enhance the greenway development, or encourage developers to put in greenways?
So I think mine is more on how do we put mechanisms in place that might encourage that partnership. I will point out this phrase came from council's input. So council can define what you may mean by UDO flexibility to partner with developers. So I just want to make sure that's understood. It's not a staff recommendation at this point. This is something that was heard through a couple of the input segments. I think Town Manager Page, did you want to add?
I do, and I'm going to go back and reference the closure of a greenway. I don't think staff disputes that as an issue or understands what the concern is. Your greenway policy is to maximize the development of greenways for the town. So this is for us to manage how we move forward with enhancing our greenway network. The issue of closure really was more of an issue that came through your development process, and it was a known factor as a part of the approval, at least the one I'm thinking of. I just don't think we had the full awareness of what that was going to be. That's why something like that may be needed more in a UDO, so that a developer would understand that that's what the expectation is, rather than referencing our greenway CIP policy. So again, not that it's not important, it's just where is the right place to capture that kind of information. From a developer perspective, this is one where we would want to pull in our planning department, because there are guidelines about what we can require a developer to do. So, and Jeannie used some of these words: creativity and investments, incentives, partnership. and enhance your discussion with the developer might be something that we want to pull more information in there.
I agree, Martha.
Okay. Did that help, Councilmember Fender? Did we answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Other comments before we move to the next slide? All right. So the next one is funding. What are the desired funding strategies and or partnerships? These are the ones that I've heard repeated in your input. I'm not going to read over all of them. Another one here, when I referred to UDO flexibility and partnering with developers, again, that's a strategy that potentially you could utilize even in the funding section. I'll liken that to roads, sidewalks being built, the roadway frontage, as Martha referred to earlier. Again, those are ways in which we can get things in place sooner than later. It's just where do we need to put that type of direction? And as Martha has clarified, the UDO may have to have something that might need to be adjusted or modified, but that's something we'll need the planning department to help us with.
And if I could add there, just a recollection and correlation, our Greenway master planning process used to be housed, I'd say, in our Parks and Recreation Department. And that seems like a natural fit with our parks and other things. But when we updated our transportation plan, we moved them into the transportation plan very purposefully so that they would align with the things that the developers know what the expectations are. If it needs to be captured in a master plan and identified as a developer comes in and understands what the cost of their development is. So that was a very purposeful choice to make sure that it's captured in the right plan when developers are considering that. And that gives us really our authority to require those kinds of betterments as development comes into town.
With Greenways fundings, you have a particular opportunity with parkland payment in lieu funds, and you actually even have some opportunities with grants through NCDOT, maybe even through partnerships or alignments with other entities. But the comment with parkland payment in lieu is that has a sunset in some ways of that funding source. While might be plentiful now, might not be as plentiful in the future. So I just want to say that out loud. There might need to be multiple ways in which you have funding to really be able to execute your desires of the Greenway policy. Another item to comment on is this annual allocation from the general fund. That's really stemming largely from our putting aside monies annually up until the past couple of years for sidewalk gap and fulfilling those priorities that Councilmember Garamella was referring to earlier and being able to execute those. So there are funds that we have allocated annually that have built up that has allowed us, our town engineer, the opportunity to take this prioritized sidewalk gap list and now start trying to tackle some of those priorities on the list and making those vital connections. But we have limits to what is still remaining available, and that will take commitments annually to refurbish or replace and restart that annual commitment of that type of funding from the general fund. And of course, there are other resources. We've often talked or heard from some council members when we talked about bonds in creating connections or greenway projects where you're doing not just one, but you're bundling a number of greenways and you're utilizing and exercising your financing and good credit ratings in order to be able to execute them sooner. So those are some comments that I had there. I believe Mayor Colley, you are up first.
Thank you. I was wondering if there's pros and cons about commingling a Greenway Reserve Fund with a sidewalk fund that we've been gathering together, and then I have another comment after that.
So commingling the annual funding contribution that's for the Sidewalk and Pedestrian Enhancement Fund, is that what you're asking?
Yeah. So would it give us more flexibility if we added Greenway and sort of add money to one big fund and then take it for sidewalks or greenways, whatever is most appropriate at that later time, instead of two separate funds?
Certainly.
I think we actually do call it, it's really named our Pedestrian Enhancements Fund, if I'm...
Sidewalks and pedestrians.
Yeah, so we tried to broaden that on purpose for such an example. But again, council controls...
Right, that's what I was going to
Council controls that, so there's not a barrier there.
Okay, so we already have that flexibility. So that's great. Jeannie, you mentioned during grants that NCDOT sometimes does grants. I don't know if maybe in the policy we want to mention DOT in particular as a partner for greenways, not just sidewalks, and also Wake County with the Triangle Bikeway coming. That seems like an opportunity, and hopefully there'll be other ways to connect regionally with other towns and things. But we already say that in an earlier slide, the regional connections, but under funding, Wake County might be a source in particular.
I can certainly add that there. It is under a framework of executing it, but it's probably referring more to the partnership or the resource, and we can be more specific if you need as council as you look at this again, as partnerships as a way to actually even acquire grant dollars through these entities.
Thank you. That's all I had on that one.
I think our next one is Council Member Rabati.
Do we have a working list of grants that we might be eligible for this purpose? And if so, what's our process by which we apply for them?
Can you repeat that last part? I'm having trouble hearing all of what you said. You broke.
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, sorry about that. I said, do we have a working list of grants that we're eligible for that could be used for these initiatives? And if so, what's our process for applying for them?
Okay. Thank you for repeating that. That was helpful. So I don't have an active working list. That could be, it's a good suggestion if that's something that we need as a part of our framework to execute, to identify grant resources or working type grants that we might want to make sure that we go out and apply or award. That would certainly give staff an understanding of what council's interests are, that you have a preference for maybe working with these entities and acquiring and getting awarded grant dollars and partnering with them. So that's certainly a great comment that we could certainly work into the policy. But I do not have a working list per se. It is something that our Parks Department and I know our Planning Department, they do actively work and look for types of grants that we could qualify for when they know that we have these projects and have defined or preliminary type design and understand what our intent is. As far as process,
to be honest with,
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
As far as process of getting grants, that's sort of where it's at right now. I know the town is also interested in really enhancing our ability to do more exploratory research on what other grant avenues that we might have out there. So that is something that we're actively working to find what those resources are that we need to tap into that might have these lists or information about these grant opportunities that are outside of the ones that we normally work with, like NCDOT and maybe Wake County and so forth, Town Manager Page.
And I'll also advocate that the correlation and our ability to effectively compete for grants in this type of area is being ready to go. And that's why this first step of getting some designed and surveyed and done long before the construction is that just makes us more successful in the competition for grants. So that's why there's that focus on getting ready.
Okay, because I was going to say that it would be helpful to have a list of grants that are available so that, I mean, if we know that there's a $500,000 grant out there that we'll be eligible for if we have a working design, that makes it, you know, that moves a working design for that project up to the top of the list, you know? Like, I think that at the very least we should have I don't know if this is a goal, okay, and I don't know, but I think generally speaking as a policy we should be conversant with grants that relate to projects that are on the CIP.
Okay, good point, and I think that's something I can work into the policy and one of the other core elements. I think it might align really well with a framework to execute, perhaps. Other comments? Again, this isn't an all-encompassing list, but it's the primary ones that you were interested in utilizing. All right. So I'll move to our last one. So when we build things, we also have to consider how do you take care of them and how do you operationalize them. That becomes really important aspects when we are thinking of investing dollars. Is not just thinking about building the tangible asset, but how are you going to program it? How are you going to staff it and operationalize it and actually deliver services to the community through it, enhanced services? So that becomes the question of what's necessary to maintain once it's established. And what I was hearing through your input was a plan, really developing a plan for operational impacts or understanding what operational impacts are. For greenways in particular, it was important to talk about or have your policy cover landscaping, and here's where we talk about those other supportive amenities. They're nice to have, but they have a life cycle and they become impactful annually to your budgets to replace. And then annually it impacts really how you maintain them, and it might even extend to who goes out and monitors and looks to see what needs to be taken care of, as well as who provides safety patrols, for example. That was something I heard in one of the comments. So those are important things to consider and that your policies speak to, because it needs to go beyond just building the tangible element, but now your policy also needs to guide and direct that it's important we consider how do we take care of it once it's there. Any comments here or questions? Anything need to be added?
The mayor.
Mayor?
So I'm not sure where it would fit in, but when you started talking about landscaping, it made me think of low impact development as a goal or something to be in the policy, that when we do create these greenways, we do it in the most environmental friendly and sustainable way possible. Also, that whenever possible, we would use native plants for landscaping, which are more hardy and robust and require less maintenance because they're natural to the area. So those were just a couple of thoughts that came up. And I guess, I don't know if we have a policy about, generally our greenways close at dusk in general, as do our parks. I don't know if we have to have something in the policy that does or does not address that to give clarity. Because we don't have any lit greenways, for example. Is that something that should be addressed within a policy or not addressed at all?
Okay. I think to speak to the time frame, you could certainly express through your policy your wishes or desires are that greenways are accessible during periods of time. I can probably see that. It is also something you can address maybe through programming of other things. So I can see that as an operational.
Thank you.
Other comments? All right. Well, great work. Good conversation and good input that I can now take. Oh, do we have one more? Yeah. Sorry, Councilmember Rabati, I missed you.
Yeah, sorry, that was just at the last minute. I wonder, since these are going to be probably like police patrols during the day, I wonder if we could change that from safety patrols to something more friendly. You know, like, I mean, so like the police, you know, because, I don't know, I just think safety patrol sounds kind of like we expect trouble on the greenways. I wonder if we could think of it as like community officers, or I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just words, but I think words are important.
Okay, so wordsmithing wise, I think staff can take that back and bring back some alternative suggestions. Is it that safety patrols is negative for you or not clear enough? I just want to make sure I get a feel for your interest.
It's definitely clear, but I feel like it's negative. I feel like it suggests that the greenways might otherwise be unsafe without these patrols. So I think that, you know, I just want to frame the police in a positive light wherever we can.
Okay, we'll work on that and with the draft, change the perspective of that and still have it address really what the intent was, I think, from the individual input. Okay?
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Mayor Colley, Greenway ambassadors, did you want to add a comment here?
No, just what Councilmember Rabati was saying, that having the word safety maybe implies that it's unsafe otherwise. So Greenway ambassadors was just a phrase that could be used maybe instead of. I don't know. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so we're going to move to wrap this up. Again, thank you for the time tonight. Thank you for the individual input that you actually gave us. It certainly helped us develop a framework to have this conversation tonight quickly and efficiently. It is something that we'll take this input now back, add it to the list of the other two placeholders that we're working on policies for. I am going in order in which we have received feedback. So the first one I'm going to complete is land acquisition. I'll move to town center and then begin working on greenways. But there's some work I can do in tandem for all three at the same time as well. And then we'll bring those back individually or as they're done and review and discuss them again with council. So again, you'll have another look, another pass, and you can begin refining that policy direction, and then we can take it to the next phase. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for facilitating that discussion. That was a very good one. According to my computer, it is 8:17 p.m. I think it would be appropriate to take a 10-minute break before we move on to our next item, which is our roundtables. Does that sound appropriate to everyone and to Martha?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so why don't we reconvene at 8:28, please. See you in a few minutes. Please remember your mics are probably on and that our chat boxes are visible in public record.
Okay, we're back, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. It's 8:28. We are now back in session. We are about to embark on the third of three work session items for this evening. This one is Town Council Roundtable / brainstorming. So the brainstorming thing is new, so we'll start with the roundtable. Generally, just to remember that the purpose of this is for any council member to bring forth any item that they would like to ask if the rest of council is interested in having staff bring back a report or a brief for further potential action into the future. Generally, we go once around, give everyone an opportunity. If there's time, we do some more. There's been an interest from the council to time box this. We're a little bit, we were thinking the first two would only be an hour each. We are 2 hours and a half in. So I'd suggest that we shoot for an hour at this time, looking for comments or agreement from the rest of the council that we can shoot for that, do some roundtable, and then discuss what brainstorming will look like with remaining time. So I have a comment. Councilmember Ravati, you want to elaborate on your comment in the chat?
Yes. Oh, sorry. I'm saying that there are 7 of us. An hour means 9 minutes each. I think 9 minutes is a long time to put an idea on the table, and I suggest that we shoot for 5. Idea, presentation, and then up, down. Who's in,
okay.
Who's out.
I'll give my 9 minutes back to you guys.
So why don't we shoot for an hour, because we're not sure what brainstorming is going to look like. And if we can finish before then we're good. If it's 5 minutes each, that's 35 minutes. So who would like to go first? I'd like to recognize Mayor Pro Tem Johnson with a comment.
Thank you. I agree with Councilmember Abadi. Let's keep this short for each one of us, and I would advocate for a check-in at 9 o'clock to see where we're all at.
Okay. I hear a half-hour check-in. That sounds reasonable. I have Councilmember Rabati has an idea to present, and after presenting the idea, because I can't see you guys around the table and go for head nods and consensus in that way, I'm essentially going to take a little roll call, at which time you could say, I would support moving that forward to staff, or you could say not at this time or no thank you, just so we're really clear. Hopefully that's acceptable as we learn to do this virtually. So I'll recognize Councilmember Rabati. We don't have a clock on this, so just present your idea, and then we'll go ahead and see. We'll have a little discussion before we vote, obviously, if anyone has any questions or need elaboration. Councilmember Rabati, please.
Not to worry, Mayor. I have my own internal clock. Can anyone see my screen? Am I sharing?
I can see Juneteenth in Morrisville.
Great. That's what I'm sharing. So I would like to propose that we celebrate Juneteenth in Morrisville in a meaningful way next year. This can take...
We just lost you, ma'am. Ms. Rabati, Councilmember Rabati, you
That's
went...
because I muted myself. I'm an
There
idiot.
you go.
Okay, so the purpose of this event would be to drive history and drive awareness of Black history and uniquely Black culture, specifically in Morrisville. And I've divided it up into 3 categories. These are my ideas, but what I really want is for this event to be citizen planned, citizen owned, right? So I think that we should form a committee to put forth this event, and that we should take applications for it, just like any other committee, and just brainstorm and see where we land. Some ideas that I had are here. I'm not going to read them to you, but these are some ideas that I had for the learning component, different ways that we could learn about the history of Morrisville and history in general. These are some listening ideas that I had. I'm sure that what we actually ended up with would look very different, but these are just to kind of get the ball rolling, and then I think that primarily it should function as a cultural celebration. so I think, am I still sharing?
No, you actually are not sharing where the public can see, so that's what I'm trying to work on.
Oh, okay. So you know what? Then maybe I should go back and maybe read some of that. So anyway, what I did was I put forth some ideas of how we could learn. Examples were book clubs at our brand new library, reading lists for all ages. In the Learn column, I had essay contests and poster contests for the kids, and potentially like some stories or movies from residents about history in Morrisville, the history of race relations, the history of Morrisville families. And then under Celebrate, I thought that maybe we could do an art walk in which we featured Black artists, and we could, maybe turn Cedar Fork into a convention space for one day or a week, and, let people walk through and look at exhibits that related to these topics. And then finally, my last slide literally just says positive, uplifting, healing. We have a year to get this right. Let's not waste the opportunity. And I also should have said the opportunity or the momentum that I feel we have going into an effort like this right now.
Thank you.
Am I recognizing people? I see Steve has a comment.
Councilmember Rao, go ahead.
I think this is a great idea, and I think that this sort of goes into the line of what we've been talking about having our Parks Department also play more of a role in promoting this kind of culture, cultural events. So I'm in support of this, and I think that the question becomes, how do we make it happen? Do we create a separate committee and do that, or can we leverage the department and do something like this? But I think, and this is a good point that you're bringing up.
So one thing, Steve, is that I think that our council diversity does not actually extend to having any Black members on our council. So that's why I said that I thought it should be citizen planned, citizen owned. We should form a committee. We just don't have the expertise on council of the Black experience in Morrisville. Was why I was saying that we should do that. I think that we could probably do it with one staff member, one council member, if only one council member wants to do it, one council member, and rely on people that want to be involved from the public. And you know what? If nobody wants to be involved, then it just dies a natural death. So, but I think people will want to be involved. I do.
Okay. Did you have further comments, Councilmember Rao?
I'm in support of this. I think the key is just, I love the fact that we're bringing this up now, to months and months or even a year before, so that we know how we would make it happen. Now, other towns like Holly Springs, for example, they have their own, for example, MLK committee. And every year they do their own MLK type event, but it's driven by the committee. So that is, and there is models out there that we can follow that exist.
Right. And, and that's a really good point, Steve, is that there's no reason why this couldn't morph into other things. And there's no reason why it couldn't be a blueprint for other committees that would bring events from other cultures up. But, I feel like the reason I'm bringing this up as a special event with a special committee is because I feel like we, in fact, do not have that representation on council right now. And so that being the case, I feel like there is a need to have a special committee.
Okay, great. And remember, we're deciding whether or not to pass this to staff to bring us back options and investigate possibilities and look at best practices. Okay. Councilmember Scroggins Johnson, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I fully support this being explored by a committee. I personally do not feel qualified to weigh in on the content of this event because I want to learn. I want to be educated. I want to hear from our community, and I think a committee is the right way to go. This is a great concept that we could replicate because we have a very diverse population. If this committee concept and ways of working is successful, or can bring us these elements, we could use it for other events that we currently do not have in our town, but yet we have diverse populations that would offer some different kinds of celebrations. So great job, and let's see where we can take this.
Okay, great. I'm afraid I can't see everyone's head nod, so seeing no other comments in the box, I'm just going to go down. Please let us know if you'd like it to move forward to staff or not at this time, or no thanks. So Councilmember Garamella.
It's a good idea. Let's take it to staff.
Okay. Councilmember Rabati presented it. I'm sure you're in favor. Councilmember Fender?
I'm definitely in support of this.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
Yes.
And TJ is also in favor. So thank you very much for bringing this forward. Thank you for the thoughtful comments from other people, and staff will be looking to look into this and bring something back for us. Is that acceptable to you, Councilmember Rabati?
So just to be clear, I'm fine with that if that's what has to happen next, but what I would be personally looking for from staff would be, how do we form this committee? How do we socialize it to the citizens? I'm not looking for a lot of staff time and energy on this. I think that it needs to happen organically among the citizens. So that's, with that proviso, yes, I'm thrilled. Thank you, everyone, for your support. And I'm sorry that I took 11 minutes after I made such a big deal about 5.
It's important that we set our expectations, and then we can work from there. Which council member would like to go next in presenting something for?
Mayor, may I interrupt just a second, just for logistical clarification? If you have something that you're wanting to share during roundtable, when you share it, it's actually only being shared in your teams and those people that are invited to the teams. It is actually not being projected to the public. So if there's something pertinent that you need to show on the screen to the community, I'm going to put my email into the chat box, and I'll try to work and get it up as quickly as I can.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful. Is that possibly towards the end after we adjourn or something, if you can put it after we adjourn or something, so it's part of the record, part of the recording? If Councilmember Rabati could send that to you now, that might be helpful.
Okay.
Okay.
Mayor, I have one idea.
Sure.
It's not really a roundtable item. I just want to, as we come to the end of this year and start planning our calendars for next year, I believe that we need to figure out a way to not do a better job of time stamping our meetings, but making sure that when we're talking about like goal setting for the manager or important closed session matters, I believe that those matters are occurring too late at night. And I no longer feel comfortable as a member of this council making those kinds of decisions at 11:30 at night. I'm just not going to be able to do it anymore. So I don't know what the answer is. Maybe we are partly to blame. I'm not trying to blame anyone on the staff or the mayor or anyone for setting the agenda. I just think it's just something I want us to think about. Is there a way we can move those items earlier in the agenda, or could we separate them when we have special hearings and things like that, that we just realize it's going to be too much to plug that in? And or do we look at other alternatives like weekends, or maybe like a Tuesday, Thursday? I just bring this up now because I know we talk about it all the time, but it doesn't seem to be changing, and we're starting our meetings earlier at 6 o'clock, but the last few years the meetings have been getting over later than when we used to start at 6:30. So I think it's really defeated the purpose. The second thing, on a positive note, I really believe that this council, when we're together and in a little bit more of an informal setting, we do really, really great work together. I think the retreats are a perfect example of that. We haven't had a chance to really socialize as much together since the pandemic. So as we move into the year, I would like to see, even if we have a retreat, having more times where we can meet and have a brainstorming session with council where we empower each other, like the mayor said yesterday, to really come in and what are our big ideas, create some energy and some interaction. The energy level needs to pick up, and I think if we do that, we'll empower and embolden the staff, and we'll all feel a lot better as a team. I just wanted to share that with you. I didn't want to put this in an email, just some open ideas. We don't have to come to a decision tonight. I just want us to reevaluate where we're going, because when you walk out of a meeting at midnight, speaking for myself, I just can't be productive anymore in that light. Speaking for myself.
Thank you very much. Adding it as a formal roundtable topic is reasonable. I know staff is already working towards it, but memorializing it as part of this process can also make sure that we're paying attention to it over time. Does anyone have any comments? And I'll just do a roll to see if we want to formally put that to staff as an action item. Councilmember Fender.
I just want to add that in the meantime of making that formal, we should all be accountable for our time management during the meeting, and maybe just keep things short and sweet.
Okay. So is that in favor of moving it forward to staff, please? Councilmember Fender. Mayor Pro Tem Johnson with a comment.
So I'm not sure what the ask is of staff. Beside the fact that, and I agree with Councilmember Rao, some of the really important decisions we have to make, it's very difficult to make them when it's running very late in the evening. So I agree with that. But I also agree with Councilmember Fender. We need to be more accountable, and we need to be more efficient ourselves. And that's not a to-do for staff.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what the ask is of staff, quite frankly.
I don't
because
think
the work
it's really
still
an
has
ask.
to come to us.
Yeah, I don't think it's an ask of staff. I just think as we look at the schedule, could we move stuff? Like if we start the meeting at 6, I know some of us can't get there early because of work obligations. Could we go into I would rather do goal setting and stuff with the manager earlier in the meeting than later in the evening. Or could we separate it from a separate meeting? Although we're doing these work sessions and roundtables, could we have like if we do a work session roundtable, could we incorporate where we're doing talking about the goals for the manager and the things for this year, do it when we're fresh, rather than doing it later at the night. Maybe there's nothing we can do. I know I'm guilty. I talk a lot. I'm trying to get better about being more effective with the questions that I ask. So I plead guilty. But I am trying, right?
Well, we all play a part in that. It's not you alone. We all play a part.
So I wanted the manager. I'm not saying that this is staff's fault in any way. I think we're all on the same team, staff and council. I just think we've got to figure out. We may not have an answer for it today, but let's think about it as we look at the calendar moving forward. Because sometimes these meetings, if you look at it, there's just so much. When you have a quasi-judicial hearing, a special use permit, a rezoning, and you've got public hearings, when we can forecast that, I don't think we should be having a discussion of goals after 4 hours of work where we're all tired and drained.
Yeah, and the purpose of the roundtable is not to get to an answer tonight.
Okay, all right.
Asking
I've gone over my 10 minutes.
No, you're good. We have a couple more comments on this item. I'll recognize first Councilmember Scroggins Johnson and then Councilmember Garamella, please. Ms. Johnson. Scroggins.
I would just like to say that I also find that the placement of the closed session is very negative in the sense that it's the very last item in the meeting, and being efficient in meetings is a good goal, but the placement in the agenda of the closed session could be changed to either the middle of the meeting, which would be uncomfortable if we had a seated audience, but it should be the priority for the council to do its business the best way it can, or we could have a closed session on a work session night where we begin with the closed session and then open it up. It is having closed sessions after 10 p.m. doesn't really foster good ideas, good conversation. It probably goes longer even than if we were fresh, because we tend to meander later at night. I really think we can be efficient if we time box it and place it earlier in the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Garamella?
I agree with what Vicky is saying because I believe the same way. Yes, staff can look into it because other towns, I know Cary, they do closed sessions early on. And if we can adopt any policies that we can knock that out early than later, it's what we are saying. So I think the mayor and the mayor pro temp, along with the town manager, you have that power to rotate around it to see how we can make it work better.
Staff presents agendas that's what we move from. So seeing no other comments, I'll just go down. Would you like to move this forward to staff, or would you like not at this time? Councilmember Garamella.
I would certainly like to move it to staff.
Okay. We already heard from Councilmember Rao that's in favor. Councilmember Rabati?
Everybody knows where I stand on shorter meetings. Move it to staff.
Councilmember Fender?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. Councilmember Scroggins Johnson?
I'm in favor of moving it to staff.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
I'm going to obviously say yes, but I think I'd like to hear from staff what they think that they're being handed, quite frankly.
Okay. I'm also in favor. Would staff like to respond real quick or bring us back something in the future?
Yes, I think we can present some options and look at some strategies for council to consider. I personally have concern based on what council has provided guidance on putting a closed session in the middle, and Councilmember Scroggins Johnson mentioned why. You've always put the public that are here first, but that's not the only option. So I think we can bring some back to you.
And I would like to acknowledge that staff's been working hard to try to make our meetings shorter and try to meet some of these other needs by adding more meetings, starting at 6 and things like that. Councilmember Rao, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that my comments in no way were to impugn or imply that this was staff's fault. I'm just saying that I just want to see what we can do with process. And I know the town manager, it's hard. She does her best to often schedule meetings around all of our schedules. It gets so hard for her to find times that work for all of us. And I know that that's the last thing I want to do is to give her, with everything she has going on, the responsibility of coordinating. So sometimes having an additional meeting is even harder for her. So I just want her to know that. Yeah.
Surely. I mean, half of this is going to boil down to, whatever staff brings us back, half of it is going to boil down to talk less. You know?
Okay, so moving on, I'd like to go next if that's okay. I would like to propose that we ask staff to look into touchless facilities cost. At least one touchless sink, soap dispenser, and hand drying device in each bathroom. And I don't know enough about them to know whether or not they would operate during a power outage, so that's why I'm not saying all of them. hands-free door opening, the use the arm to avoid the harm, and the use your foot technologies are on some doors. Perhaps both can be installed. I applaud and appreciate already that our staff has already taken some steps to address this issue. I am hoping this council will support a more comprehensive assessment and estimate to include all town facilities, buildings, and restrooms in our parks. I'm looking simply for cost estimates first, and whether or not we have installation capacity in-house, and then a proposed timeline to implement if council supports financially. Feel free to provide varying cost versus time versus level of service, like quality, comprehensiveness options. Just like the hurricanes in Florida, the wildfires in California, and the flu everywhere each winter, the coronavirus variants are likely to be part of our future. Our new way of life has changed, and the world we live in is safer when we minimize our need to touch any shared surfaces. And I will recognize Town Manager Page for a comment.
Staff is already working on this item.
Okay, so we don't need to go down the list. Does anyone else have any other ideas that they'd like to present tonight? Okay. Seeing none, I understand that there might have been a little update about the Morrisville Community Park from staff and consultant. Can we hear from Brandon on that?
Sorry, can you hear me, Mayor?
We can hear you.
Okay. Thank you. We were prepared to answer any questions that may come, or if there was discussion amongst council as to any guidance that might be different from what we received at the July 28th meeting.
Okay. So I did have something that I'd like to share, but I want to make sure everyone has an opportunity first before we go around a second time. Okay, I'll make this quick. Already shared somewhat last night, and was glad that Mayor Pro Tem Johnson indicated that the roundtable would be a more appropriate time. I did provide a quick overview about the tennis court thought and my interest in gathering more data about the viability and cost of a fourth tennis court as part of Morrisville Community Park Phase 3. Today I rewatched the video of our meeting last month, and I brought up the possibility that the consultant, and she responded pretty emphatically that there were significant challenges to doing so. So this is not a hill I'm looking to die on, but I would appreciate if the council would support a request to have the consultant provide a cost estimate and a short pros and cons of a fourth court there. I fully realize it is not simply a fourth court, it is a larger footprint, perhaps a taller retaining wall, and the need for additional stormwater, which may mean having even more permeable parking lot. Our adopted Parks and Rec plan calls for 11 tennis courts, and the plan presented July 28th gets our residents to 8. Obviously 9 is better, and I would like to be able to say that we explored all possibilities to better meet the needs of our community. Asking for this info 2 weeks ago would have been better, and in my opinion today is the second best time to ask. After 8 years of working on this, another 2 weeks is a small sacrifice in the big picture, and it's not like we've turned dirt already. So if staff has any response to that, or if any council members have any comments, I'd appreciate any discussion on that. Seeing no comments, Assistant Manager Zudema, was there any new information or different?
So what I would share with you, Mayor, is just making sure that council understands what they're asking and what it potentially means for the project. Again, want to emphasize that staff is very aware of the identified need in the master plan and the desire for additional tennis courts in the community, and certainly appreciate the desire to maximize the space that we have available to us. This was certainly discussed as part of this area of the park with staff and also with our consultant CLH to look for. They examined and considered a number of different alignments there for tennis ball courts and how we could add potentially the pickleball courts and other uses. So we certainly can look at adding a fourth court. It is not as simple as you might think it would be. We've asked some questions of CLH. There is definitely, as you, I think, suggested, a time delay. It would stop the work that they're currently doing. After we got sort of the thumbs up at the July 28th meeting, they had moved into schematic design to begin to do some of the more specific work that is required to take what they've drawn to bring it to reality. So that work would have to stop, and they would have to go back and revisit some of that work and re-examine some of the data and information they have around some of the issues you mentioned, which would include the retaining wall, significant concern in terms of impervious surface and what that would mean in terms of stormwater capacity there. And they would need to do additional work before we could bring you what I would describe as a meaningful and reliable cost estimate for what the increase in price would be for this $1.5 million project. Happy to answer any questions.
So, like I said, 2 weeks ago would have been a better time to ask, and they have already started doing work, so that's definitely something that we should all consider in whether or not we want to move this forward back to staff or not. Acknowledging a question from Councilmember Rabati, and then a comment from Councilmember Rao. Councilmember Rabati.
No, actually, my question was for Councilmember Rao. I don't play tennis. Could you have more experience in this area? Can you give us an idea of how much difference it would make in terms of scheduling? Like how much difference is one court going to make? You know what I mean? Like, what's the? I'm not sure how important it is. So could you speak to that? And I'm sorry that I yelled at you for speaking before. It's just so late. I'm so cranky. I'm so sorry.
No, you're absolutely right. I don't know how to shut my mouth sometimes. No offense. And this is making me want to go play tennis right now. But first of all, that's a great. I think that one court, from a programming perspective, doesn't really make sense, because if you're going to build more courts, having 5 courts or 6 courts in terms of leagues is the best thing you can do, because then you can get more play. You can generate more revenue through leagues. With the youth programs, you can get more kids on a court with this new program they have called Quick Start, which is you divide the courts up and you do that stuff. So I appreciate the mayor's interest in a court, because I am concerned that we have a lack of 3 courts with 11. But if we were going to build more courts, I would rather do it if we could have 2 more courts or 3 more courts, which I always, in my vision, thought Morrisville Community Park was going to be 5 courts. That's what I always thought. So I was a little bit disappointed when I found out it was only going to be 3, but we got the pickleball courts. So in my opinion, and I hope that answers your question, I would actually look to see, is there opportunities on other areas of land that we own to add more courts. Like, for example, we own land behind Church Street Park. I think there's some land out there that we own now. Could we haven't really talked to the council on what we want to do. And we had talked about having a fire station there. That's off the table. Could we build courts there? But, I don't know. Is there another place where we could build 4 to 5 more courts? You know what I want? I would like that.
Right, and
does that make sense?
Yeah. Does that answer your question, Councilmember Rabati? Yeah, when Steve and I talked about this on the phone, he mentioned that 5 to 6 courts is important. Having 3 courts at Morrisville Community Park and 2 very close at our MAFC, that makes the 5. Having a 4th here would make the 6, although they wouldn't be all in one place. They'd be proximate for any kind of tournaments or anything. So, Steve, did you actually have an additional comment, or did you share in the answer what you wanted to share?
That's what I was wanting to share. So I think that's the thing is, that's what
Councilmember Garamella with a comment?
Yeah. Hey, Brandon, you said these guys have already started the work, right? So they have just done the schematic. They have not done rest of the stuff. So when they start really working into the engineering design and plan, do they see there is a possibility to carve a court? If so, what's the cost of it? Because these things, like obviously everyone will ask the request, but it would be really good for the CLK or CLH, whoever they are, to come back and say, we explored, we saw that it's not feasible in several areas, this, or it is, and this is a price tag on it. So that's the kind of thing that I'm looking if we get into these kind of scenarios. So it will help us to determine, to move forward or not to move forward.
Yes,
so
sir.
That's
we can ask CLH to provide us that additional information. I would tell you that they provided a recommended plan that they felt was the most appropriate for the space we have and for trying to balance need against budget, and that resulted in the 3 courts that you see. We have asked them about a 4th court. They do not recommend it given the totality of the circumstances, but they are willing to spend the time to develop a cost estimate and to better explain what the implications are of trying to fit a 4th court.
No, and exactly. So, like, if they are saying, no, we looked into it already, it's not, really feasible, then that ends the topic. So to stretch this, like, it could be possible or not possible, it just opens up more, open questions. That's the thing. Like, I'm just had a comment on.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Garamella. Go on, Brandon. I apologize.
I'm sorry. I was just saying we generally know what those issues are. Again, mentioned a couple of them in terms of impervious surface and stormwater. Also concerned with the taking of additional trees in the area that would be impacted. Some concerns related to lighting on the adjacent apartment complexes, things like that. But again, won't know what those specifics are until CLH does additional work, and particularly can't tell you what the price tag would be until they do that additional work, if so directed.
So I would just add that if one of the main deterrents was budget, the fact that we're very scarce on land, and the fact that in the past, when given a choice, this council has sometimes said, actually don't phase it, go ahead and do all the work. I'm thinking about Historic Christian Church. I think it's better to provide the choice and the option so that we can make a fully informed decision. And I know that it would slow down the process right now for 2 weeks or so, or whatever it would take. But now I'm going to recognize some more comments. Steve, did you want to comment on your comments? No. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, please.
So I first want to say the discussion we had when we talked with our staff and our consultant about this design for Morrisville Community Park, I thought was a really good conversation, and I thought that we all asked some really important questions. And to your point, TJ, the consultant told us they tried to put in as much as feasible, balancing the impervious surface and the stormwater issues. So I am comfortable with that. That park needs these amenities that we all agreed upon, and I'm okay with that. But we're going to be taking a lot of the tree canopy down, and so I think that's really important to balance when we're making these decisions. And I thought we all did a great job, quite frankly, and I felt good when I came out of that meeting that we came to an agreement that we liked the design in front of us. And I thought that our staff and our consultant did a fabulous job getting as much as was feasibly possible into the design. So I don't want to stop progress. I will tell you that right now. I do not want to stop progress for something that is probably in the end not, again, going to be feasible. I don't want to stop project just to ask a question and then say, oh, keep going, never mind. I want to keep moving. And I do love, Councilmember Scroggins Johnson always says, when we make a decision, we release energy, and that's really good because then we can focus on all the other things we need to focus on. I think we had great discussion, and we came to a great solution together, or a great decision together on telling our staff to move forward, and I'm fine with that. And I also want to say I agree with Councilmember Rao. There are other opportunities. There's other property that we own that we could look at for these additional tennis courts that we need. But I would also say we also have other needs. We keep hearing about a basketball court that folks would like to see that around town. So I think there's lots of things we need to focus on. I'd like to keep this project moving, and I don't want to see it stop.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Like I said, 2 weeks ago would have been much better time, because then people wouldn't feel like we were stopping progress at that time, just asking for additional information so we can make an informed decision. So that's on me that I didn't really make this discussion a little bit more robust then. But the path of least resistance doesn't really lead to the most progress. So I'm going to go, I don't see any other people looking to make comments. So I'm just going to go ahead and go down the list. Would you like to move this forward to staff, who's indicated that the consultant could do it? It would slow down the progress, but it would give us an informed decision about whether or not we want to try to maximize the use of this space. And I would just say that there are other opportunities to build tennis courts in town. It might take a while to make that happen. And one more court now is one more court that we can have for the citizens sooner rather than later. So please indicate move forward or no thank you, or not at this time. Councilmember Garamella. When I say move forward, pass it to staff, or no thank you. Councilmember Garamella, are you muted or? Councilmember Garamella, can you hear me? Okay, we'll circle back. Councilmember Rao?
I think this is a hard one for me. I wish we could just get a cost estimate of what it would cost, but it sounds like we're not going to be able to do that. It's going to delay the work. So just based on what the staff said, I just think hold off at this time unless they can come back with just a number of what it would be to build a court. So I want to hear from everyone else first.
Okay. So we'll circle back to you as well. Councilmember Rabadi?
I'm sorry, Mayor. I just don't see the ROI. I'm a no thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Fender?
I have to agree. I don't want to delay the progress on the design.
Okay. Councilmember Scroggins Johnson?
I would say no, thank you. We had a great discussion, and there's a careful balance, and I don't want to reopen it. I want to move forward.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
No, thank you.
I'm in favor of moving it forward. Circling back to Councilmember Garamella.
So what is the ask here?
To ask staff to ask the consultant to look into the viability and the cost of adding that fourth court to maximize use of the space.
No, I am okay if they want to ask, but as long as it's not affecting the overall time schedule, I don't think it's a big ask that we are asking. So
essentially, it's no different than 2 weeks difference. Because if we had done this last week, that would.
No, I don't even see this as a 2 weeks that it's delaying it, while they're articulating the rest of the estimates. They can just come back to us, saying yes or no. We know the answer is mostly no, but we want, as you rightly said, rule out that we tried everything. So I just want to ask them. It's not a big ask, I would say, to just ask if it is feasible or not. If not, move forward. That should not delay their project in any manner.
Okay, Councilmember Rao.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't delay the project, I just say just have them take a look at. I just want a quick answer. What would be the cost of a court, and how would it work?
Okay. So on that one, I have 3 council members in favor of asking staff to ask the consultant to look into it further. So we do not have support for that effort.
I'll throw my support in if we can make it a fast turnaround. Just have them do a rough order magnitude estimate.
Okay.
All right, I don't want to beat this to death, but we've literally already been told that it will delay the project. Right. Thank you.
Yeah, if we had had this conversation 2 weeks ago, it would have been a 2-week delay.
Mayor, if I could.
Can I just add?
Mayor?
I don't just want an estimate of the tennis court. You are going to impact the trees. I want to know if we had a tennis court, are we affecting the trees? Are we affecting stormwater? It's not just an ask for a cost of a tennis court.
Yes, I understand. It was also the pros and cons around it. Yes, that's part of the ask.
It's big.
Pros and cons.
Mayor Colley, if I could offer a little additional feedback, it is more than just a quick turnaround. We've asked the brief question of CLH, so as I indicated, they have some of the information they need, but there is analysis and additional design work that would have to be done to determine what those costs would be. There is also work that would have to be done to determine how significant the impact would be in terms of the impervious surface. So we anticipate probably minimally a 30-day turnaround before we would be able to come back with what this impact would be to give you a reasonable cost estimate and to address some of the questions about impact.
Okay, so I guess my hope would be that that would have been included as an option in the first presentation. And it would have been better to have asked that 2 weeks ago. I admit that. But we haven't turned dirt. This completion of this is at least a year away still. I think 30 days to make sure that we're getting the maximum utility out of this space and getting closer to our Parks and Rec recommended needs is worth that delay. And that's why I'm bringing it forth for council discussion.
So Mayor, based on...
Okay, please say comment in the chat, and we'll just sort of keep it organized. I believe that Councilmember Rao has a comment, and then Councilmember Pender.
So, look, I mean, everyone knows how much I love the game of tennis, and there's nothing that I would like more than having a court. It seems to me, based on Brandon's answer, that this is going to be much more than just getting us the cost estimate. I mean, if it's 30, 35 days, I think it's going to delay the design of the project. I just don't think it's worth delaying it, that much further just for one court. So based on Brandon's answer, I think I'm just going to say, let's just move forward what we have, and even if it's going to take longer to get we can get a court, because now Brandon's coming back and completely going to the opposite of what Councilmember Garamella wanted, was get us a quick turnaround and get an answer.
Right.
30 days is a big amount of time, and the other council members, it just seems like 4 of our council members are really in favor of what was presented. So, I mean, so anyway, I guess I've changed my mind. I just don't think 30, 35 days, you're looking at derailing this potential project.
Okay, that's a point. It's a project that's long in duration, but I understand your logic. Councilmember Fender?
Yeah, I'm surprised by the 30-day notice, and I guess my only thought is, you know, as an engineer and having to do estimates all the time, you can always do a rough order magnitude estimate that could be, hell, you could do a 10-minute turnaround. I guess I don't understand why the engineering firm couldn't come back within a couple of days and give us a rough order magnitude estimate and say, yes, this is going to cost an additional $200,000. We know it's going to impact the trees. You know, doing engineering estimates, you can do a plus or minus 25% estimate or a plus or minus 10% estimate. I think it could be done.
Okay, so that's a matter of asking for it to be done.
It doesn't have to take 30 days. It could take 2 days.
Okay, Councilmember Garamella?
I think I take it this way. Lessons learned out of this, how can we avoid in the future? You know, how can we have a touch base before it gets presented that we can ask questions to them and ask all our doubts cleared, and at the same time, these are professional people, so they better have all their answers with them right on their back because we are paying them big bucks. So we should have an opportunity even before, like a preliminary, map, and where we can vet it so that they can take those inputs and make us a final plan instead of bringing a final plan and not ready to take anything. I think said that, with all what I'm hearing, it's better to just let this go. But in the future, we just have to change this whole process of how this is getting done because it's not helping us to give any input. And even if we do, even if we say, I wanted, a 6th tennis court, the answer should be on the spot. No, we have tested it. We have seen it. It is not feasible because of this reason. So that kind of thing, I'm looking, where the consultant and the staff can work, or even if they want us for a preliminary input, we would be more than happy so that we don't get into these kind of scenarios in the future.
So to your point, as a lesson learned, we don't have to give up on this as a lost cause.
No, the question is not give up. The question is we did not act on it right away. If we
2 weeks
did,
ago, right?
That is fine. If she, the consultant who basically thinks that it will take her 1 month, then I would think twice, before going again to her, because that's not the turnaround time. So those kind of things I'm looking around because we can't change their estimates if they're saying 30 days. It is what it is. But I agree with Donna because these things, once you go into deep, I do estimates day in, day out for my firm, and when it boils down to these small things, they should have it on their tips, or at least something they can say. If it's a big no-no, there will be a stormwater and impervious. That's all we need to know. We don't need to know okay, the cost of impervious would be this much, the cost of cutting trees is this much, the lights will be affecting. We just need something real quick. That's so that I can do the last check mark. But since we didn't do it, I'd rather let it go and take this as lessons learned from future projects.
Okay.
Thank you.
So what I'm hearing is that there's not support for asking for this information from the consultant, and that perhaps in the future we get a presentation and then we have 2 weeks to think about it, and if a question is asked is a court or any kind of change possible, and they say they can look into it, then we expect to have them look into it for the next meeting before a final decision. So
Yeah.
I think that that is a useful outcome of this, and I appreciate a good discussion on this subject. So I apologize for bringing it up last night and tonight, and as was noted, it's 9:21, and we were looking to do a time check at 9. Is there anyone who hasn't done a roundtable idea who'd like to share one? Because I got 2, Ann got 1, Steve got 1. I want to make sure that everyone's had their opportunity. Okay. Seeing none, a second part of this work session was brainstorming. Would we like to try to get an idea of what that would look like, or would we like to call it a night? Looking for comments or suggestions.
I had to leave. I have a conference call starting in 4 minutes. So I would, like, if you don't close it now, I may need to get excused.
Okay. I saw a gesture from Councilmember Rabati. I'm not sure what that meant.
Yeah.
Is that peace out? What's that?
That's option 2. Option 2. We call it a night. I can't
Okay.
honestly.
I thought
I'm not
you
trying
had
to be
2
a
more
jerk,
items.
but I have. God no, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I just have nothing in the tank to brainstorm with. Like I'm just done.
Okay. Would we, our next roundtable and brainstorming is scheduled for when, Town Manager Page?
I don't have the schedule up. I believe it's August 27th, but let me check.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so if let's start to socialize what we want that brainstorming to look like, and maybe we can do a time box of 30 to 45 minutes of that brainstorming before the roundtables next time, so that we at least give that a try. Would be a suggestion that we can all think about for August 27th. Okay. Is there anything else for the good of the order from staff at this time before we adjourn?
No, sir. Aaron has an updated roundtable tracking report that I will just send to you. It has just some quick updates, including about election sites, but we'll get that sent to you by email.
Okay. Thank you very much. So our next meeting is on Tuesday, August 25th. And then on August 27th, we have another work session. So I would now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion to adjourn from Councilmember Rao. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilmember Garamella. Would Eric Smith, our town clerk, please do a roll call vote to adjourn?
Councilmember Fender,
Aye.
Councilmember Garamella,
Aye.
Councilmember Rao,
Aye.
Councilmember Robati,
Aye.
Councilmember Scroggins Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Cawley.
Aye.
The motion to adjourn passes unanimously.
Okay, it is 9:27. We are adjourned. Thank you all, and thank you to staff.